Good morning. We are now live on Facebook and YouTube for another session of daily learning and lockdown instruction. Hope you are keeping all well and healthy. And thank you for joining us again. I see people are logging on. If you're just logging on, please do share your comments and your traditional morning greetings. We'd love to hear from you. Great stuff. Great stuff. Okay. Just give it a few more minutes. Just give me a second here while I sort this out. Good morning. Good morning. Okay, I see the comments are coming through on YouTube. I'm going to welcome you all personally, all those who have commented in the chat on both Facebook and YouTube. I'm going to welcome you both here. Just in a second. Just setting up stations. Thank you. Okay, so let's welcome you all personally. Start with Facebook first. The Facebookers, those who have greeted personally: Neil Herman, Helen Feinstein, Arnold Orkin, thank you. Great, thanks Neil. Aline Yadulovitz, good morning. Michael Stein, Boker Tov, Manfred Kalmek, Tracy Mindel. Thank you. Anne Hack, thank you. Hilton Sawitsky, Marlene Scher, thanks for the feedback. Robert Levy, Larry Cohen, Lionel Rubin, thank you. Boker Tov, Hilly Lipworth. Tracy, thank you for the feedback. Melissa Ganendi, Mark Wachenheimer, Felicia Jenks. Yes, it did leave us humbled and inspired and overwhelmed. It's true. Great. Mark Wachenheimer, thank you. And to those who are joining us on YouTube, I want to welcome you personally. Shelley Smith, thank you. Fega Sega, Janice Leibovitz. Yeah, it's always nice to try new platforms and new experiences during lockdown. Laura Dworkin, thank you very much for joining. Hilly Lipworth, I see your comment. I'll come to that in a moment. Jenny Lichtenstein, thank you very much for your feedback. Ian Clemenson. Right, amazing. We're close to 35 students here. I'm just going to give this a moment. I'm going to comment on last night's Zoom program. I will comment on that and your comments that are coming through regarding that. Avril Warpert, thank you for joining. So 35 students over here. We're edging towards 40 students across Facebook and YouTube now. So well done. Even though lockdown level 3 is in place, we are still managing to get here on a daily basis. So well done to you all for logging on and connecting during this time. Great to see you all. Once again, I will comment on last night's event in just a moment. But just wanting to see everyone who's on. David Ginsberg, good morning. Hami and Linda Drew, good morning. Thank you. Okay. Right. We are on 40 students. Good morning, Dennis Basarabi. Janice, I see your comments there. It was really incredible. Yes. Okay, so just some thoughts. And Brian Owen, thank you, man. Good to see you here. So just to welcome you all to another session. Good to see you all back. So we had a fantastic Very inspiring program last night on Zoom. It was really, really heartwarming. And I want to thank all those who managed to get on for being there and supporting the program. Those of you who didn't make it to the program, it was titled "The Jewish Daughter of Hamas." A fascinating, fascinating story, personal story by Maya, who shared her story. Outstanding. Wow. Moving, emotional. Ronnie Kotkas would welcome. Good morning, Shalom Triga. Good. I'm happy you were there to listen to the story. It was an unbelievable story. And unfortunately, many people didn't get on. So we are busy planning another session. Stay tuned for the update on that. Hopefully, we'll have some confirmation in the next day or so. But unbelievable. So if you didn't make it on last night, please do stay tuned for the next one and make sure you are there. Make sure you are there. Make sure you are logged on for the next program. We'd love to have you on. Okay, so Daryl here wow, good to see Daryl. So that's called learning on the job. Daryl, learning on the job. So well done for tuning in from your office. Amazing. And keep the comments going. We're over 40 students, between 40 participants here this morning between Facebook and YouTube. So you guys give me the inspiration. You think I give you the inspiration on a daily basis? It's not the case. By you logging on and tuning in and me watching those numbers go up gives me the inspiration. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you all, those of you on Facebook, sorry, to those of you on YouTube, it doesn't really work this way. But those of you on Facebook, if you share, press the share button just beneath your screen. There's two things. You can like it and share it. Do both. Like the video, like the share, and then share it. We're edging towards 50. So if we can get to 50 students today, that would be marvelous. So Linda, you're going to listen on YouTube. Well, Linda, and go with that. Okay, so either one is good. I'm watching the comments in both. We're going to continue our conversation that we started yesterday. The conversation was about the sanctity of the body and making sure that the body is healthy, because a healthy body goes together with a healthy soul. You can't have one without the other. You got to have bodies and souls that are healthy. And we spoke about the sanctity and the holiness of the body, and how the body is part of God's creation. And the body is part of God's creation. So there was a comment that came through yesterday, which I'd like to start with, and that was regarding body piercings. And let's just explain the question. If the body is so holy, if the body is godly and spiritual, then where does piercing fit in? Body piercing. Thank you, Linda, for the clarification. Thank you. So where does body piercing fit in? Are we allowed to pierce the body? Are we not allowed to pierce the body? How does that all fit in? Or tattoos? Good. Interesting question. Ian Clemenson, thank you. So that's great. You guys are interacting here. It's fantastic. Please keep comments coming on YouTube or on Facebook. We'd love to interact with you. So now the question is expanded onto tattoos as well. So there's a major difference between tattoos and body piercings. The fact that the tattoo is permanent and becomes part of your body and cannot be removed, that we know is a problem in Judaism. In fact, there's a prohibition about creating a ka'aka, which is a tattoo on our body, because we are eternally, everlasting, changing the look of our body from the way that God created our body. Whereas body piercings aren't necessarily permanent. and we're not changing the body itself. We're adding to the body. There's a big distinction here, and I just wanted to address Ian's point on YouTube, is that there's a difference between tattoos and body piercings. But there may be common denominator. They're not the same, but they may share similarities. Okay? We do find in Torah referencing to body piercings. When it comes to Eliezer bringing the gifts from Abraham for Rebecca, for Rivka, who was soon to become the wife of Yitzchak, there it speaks about jewelry. It speaks about earrings. I don't think in those days it was dealing with fake earrings or custom earrings. It was talking about real earrings, body piercings, earrings that pierce into the body. There are other types of piercings there as well, where in the olden days women would wear piercings, and even in the Torah times we find piercings, not just on the ears, so around the body. So there's definitely sources for that show support for the style and the permissible style of body piercings. On the contrary, on the other hand, tattoos, there's no such source for that in the Torah, and we know on the contrary there are prohibitions against tattoos and changing the form of our bodies eternally, long term. Now, just on that note, you all know the famous story. It's been shared many, many times about the Baal Teshuvah, the yeshiva student in Israel, who had tattoos from his previous lifetime, and now he found himself in the yeshiva studying Torah, and he once went to the mikveh. It was the day before Yom Kippur, Erev Yom Kippur, and he went to the mikveh, and a little bit ashamed he was of his body because it was filled with tattoos, and that was obviously from a lifetime that he wasn't very proud of. And to his total despair, he tripped. He tripped while he was trying to walk around the mikveh. It's a little slippery, and he tripped and sprawled out on the floor. His tattoos were exposed, and it was very, very embarrassing for him. And suddenly he sees a hand reach out. It was an older hand, an elderly hand reaching out to help him up from the floor. And on that hand, there was a small number. It was a tattoo. And the man says to him, "Don't worry, my friend, I've got one too." And you can imagine that gave him a sense of confidence. The old man was telling the young man, "Don't worry about your tattoo. I've also got a tattoo." Obviously in very different context, but one supported the other, and he enabled the man to get up in pride and to get on with what he was busy with. So that's the mention about tattoos. But it comes to body piercings. So we do find Torah teachings that discuss the Torah verses from the Torah that describe piercings in the body. That's obviously okay. However, that being said, while we're on that topic of body piercings, it's important for us to realize and recognize that the piercings are there to enhance the body. The piercings are not there to attract their own attention. There's a very fine line here. And let me just explain what I mean by that. When we speak about physicality and spirituality working hand in hand, when we speak about the body and the soul working hand in hand, and how the health of both of them are very important, it's important for us to remember still which is the superior and which is the inferior, which is the purpose and which is the assistant, or the sidekick, or the assistant in the process. We can't lose focus. So while we want the body to be healthy and the soul to be healthy, we also need to remember which is in control, which takes control. Good morning, Norman Stein. Thank you for joining us. Sometimes there's people who exercise their bodies for the sake of their bodies. And that's not what we're discussing today or yesterday. We're not discussing the health of the body for the sake of the body. Take, for example, the Olympic Games that stem from Athens in Greece. There, the Olympic Games were structured in such a way that it was there to celebrate the body of the human being. We idolized the body of the human being. It's for that reason that in those days, Olympic Games were often held as sportsmen and athletes were competing naked. Why? Because it's about the body, serving the body and acknowledging the greatness of the body. That's not what we're intending today. We're not talking about serving the body, idolizing the body, but rather seeing the body as a conduit for the soul. That's the difference in Judaism. Judaism also celebrates the body, but only by recognizing that the body is spiritual, the body is holy, the body is divine, the body is a conduit for the neshama, for the soul. And if we get that, then there's a purpose to the body. And the same thing applies to the body piercings that we started this program off this morning. Is that there's nothing wrong with body piercings, and on the contrary, we've got reference in Torah to body piercings. But I think it's important to highlight the fact that body piercings are there to highlight and celebrate and beautify the body. Meaning the body of Hashem is the superior and the jewelry is the inferior. Sometimes, so just like the soul is superior to the body and the body is inferior to the soul, the same thing can be said that the body is superior to the jewelry and the jewelry is inferior to the body. That's important to remember that. Because so often we get carried away by the style and the fashions and the fads. And so often the piercings become an entity of their own. The piercings become an attraction of their own. The piercings take people's attention off you and onto your jewelry. And I don't just speak to the women and the ladies who are with us this morning, but this can be said for men or women equally. Are we looking to take the attention off me and God's creation and focus on the indulgence, focus on the physicality and the mundane of the jewelry, or is the jewelry there to beautify ourselves? And I think to that, there's no right or wrong. There's no right or wrong. It's very, very difficult to say what's right and what's wrong. But one thing is that overindulgence in piercings, overindulgence in jewelry, could turn the attention away from what's supposed to be focused on. And that's the body, the presence and the creation of Hashem. That's the sanctity of the body that we're talking about. And wanting the jewelry and the piercings to enhance the body, to enhance God's creation. Brian Owen points out that bodybuilding, it's all about even the title bodybuilding. You got to be careful with that title. I agree. Okay, so if you have any questions, I want to stop here for a moment and pause and welcome everyone. We are close to 45 participants here this morning across Facebook and YouTube. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here. If you're just logging on now, or you've just logged on, please do share with us that you're with us. And I'd love to communicate with you directly and personally. If you're watching from Facebook, please press the like button and the share button and share this with your friends and family. Let them know what you're up to on a bright Tuesday morning at 10 to 11 as we're learning and engaging with each other. Someone else asked a question yesterday, and I love those questions that come through because they make me think. And when they make me think, I hope I can make you think. Simeon Angel, good morning. Thank you. So the question yesterday was asked about body limbs, body organs. Can we donate body organs? And I answered it briefly yesterday in the more simple kind of body organ donation, referring to the kidneys. Let's say a kidney transplant. That's a more easier one to answer, and that's definitely encouraged, especially if it's there to save a life. So that's obviously yes. Good morning, David Seif on YouTube. Thank you for joining. I think the more complicated one becomes more of the vital organs. But it's not because, let's just clarify this. It's not because, it's complicated not because of the sanctity of the body. No, we are supposed to give away our organs. If we can give away our organs, we are supposed to give away our organs for the sake of saving another life. And don't worry, if you lose your kidney, God will give it back to you in the world to come. You'll be built up. Your body will be built up once again with a new kidney in the world to come. So that's not the issue. The issue is not about taking away from our bodies. On the contrary, to take away from our bodies for the sake of helping someone else out is encouraged. It's a big mitzvah in Judaism. The only complicated issue with regards to the vital organs is because the vital organs won't help in a transplant unless they are transplanted, unless they are donated, while the body of the original owner is still functioning, is still alive. Once the body dies, there's no more functionality to the vital organs of the body. They're dead as well. And so the vital organs only are helpful if we can catch the person at a moment of life. Now that's complicated, because how do you catch a person at the moment of life without killing that person? And this is where organ donation gets so complicated. In the non-Jewish world, it's quite straightforward. That if someone is on the verge of dying, we don't mind hurrying the process in order to extract their vital limbs to save someone else, especially if they've requested that in their will or their license card or whatever they're carrying in their wallet. But in Judaism, it's more complicated because we're not allowed to bring to a quick end of someone's life. That would be prohibited. And so therefore, we have to find a moment when a person is alive but not alive, meaning not alive halachically, dead halachically, but biologically still alive to a point where the vital organs are still working and are still helpful to help someone else. And this is where it gets so complicated halachically, because what is considered death according to halachic standards, brain dead or not. This is a topic that I don't want to get into today. It's a bit too complicated for a Facebook and YouTube forum. I just wanted to answer that question, that it's not about, the issue isn't the sanctity of my body. On the contrary, I should give away whatever I can to save someone's life. The issue more is about whether we can catch those organs at the right time without transgressing a prohibition of killing a person earlier than God wants us to. That's the sensitivity around this issue. So thank you for sharing that question yesterday. And the question about the piercings, those two questions came as a result of interaction on our chat. So if you'd like to share with us, please do let me know. Do we have any, also another question, do we have any international viewers? If you're logging on from overseas, we'd love to know you're with us. Australia maybe, or Israel, or somewhere else. Please let us know if you are in touch, if you are following this from overseas. We'd love to be able to interact with you. If you have any questions, feel free to share them too. Now, this topic of the sanctity of the body, because we've spoken plenty about the sanctity of the soul. Thank you for that question, Maureen and Robert. I'm coming to that in a moment. So, Robert's question, what about resurrection when Mashiach comes? Exactly. The resurrection when Mashiach comes, Robert, is whatever limbs, I think you're referring to the question of organ donations. Take, for example, kidney donation. Whatever limbs were taken from you to help someone else, don't worry, will be restored. Robert, the body must be intact. Now I get your question. So the issue is like this. First of all, chances are very slim that your body's going to be intact anyway. After someone spends hundreds of years in a grave, 6 foot under, in soil, in a box, or out of the box, there's not much chance, unless great tzaddikim who are able to keep their body fully intact. It's generally not the case. So it's not going to happen. And Hashem is going to rebuild our bodies in the time of the Messianic era, in the times of Mashiach. And even an organ that was given away, God can do anything. If God can bring back the dead, he can also give me back a limb or an organ that I gave away to save someone else's life. So not to be worried about that, kidney donation, or whatever else. God will give it back to me when the time is right and my body needs it. I'll get that kidney back. Don't worry. Okay, so another area where we see, thank you for sharing that question, Robert and Maureen, thank you. Anyone else want to share, please feel free to share. Norman, just clarify that. I see your comment coming through. Norman, just clarify your comment. Thank you. So another area where we see the sanctity of the body, because that's what we're focusing on, the sanctity of the body. Another area is with regards to tzniut, laws of modesty. Laws of modesty. Why is it important to be modest in dress? I'm referring to. Why is it important to be modest in dress? Okay, so I see Robert's question. Do we allow for an autopsy? Okay, so we'll speak about that in a moment. Okay, so I'll come back to that. Just focusing on the modesty of the body. So the reason why we have laws of modesty is because the body is holy. If the body is holy, then the body is to be protected. Just like the Torah in the ark, no one would want to see the Torah in the ark exposed. We wouldn't feel comfortable if we walked in and the whole Aron Kodesh and the ark was wide open. That's not appropriate for a Torah. You know, Torah should be protected with a door and a locking system and a curtain in front. And the same thing can be said regarding the body. The body is holy, both men and women. The body is holy. And because the body is holy, we therefore advise, Torah says, dress appropriately. Dress appropriately. Yes, for husband and wife, their bodies are one, and therefore husband and wife can be exposed to one another. And I know that there's a lot going on across the headlines of the internet regarding the Netflix show called Unorthodox, which touches upon the issues of modesty in general, and modesty between husband and wife. There's a lot of myths that come across through, you know, Hollywood and shows like that. So one day maybe we'll address that. But in terms of modesty, so modesty between husband and wife, obviously exposure is okay, is permissible, and the contrary is encouraged. But in public is where the body is to be kept holy and covered and modest, as is appropriate, laws of tzniut. It even says that laws of tzniut doesn't just apply in the public. It even speaks about someone at home by themselves. You know, how do they walk around their home when they're on their own? So we think to ourselves, well, no one's around, so therefore I can be immodest. And according to Torah teachings, that's not the case. Because the body is holy, therefore the body should be covered out of sanctity for the body. So that's another area where we see the sanctity of the body. Arnold Orkin, you're right. The tzaddik's body does not decompose. So absolutely. So tzaddikim are the ones whose bodies are going to remain totally intact in the world to come. For sure, that's correct. Just to continue the conversation, and I'll come back to Robert Levy's question about autopsies in a moment, but this is one of the reasons for the Brit Milah, the circumcision, that God wanted to have a permanent sign, almost like a signature on the body. And the way he did that was by requesting the Brit Milah, the circumcision. And so Hashem said that by circumcising your body, doing a Brit Milah on the body, by doing that, you're showing that the body is holy. Because if the body wasn't holy, then what's the point of circumcision? What's the point of having a mark, a signature of God on a person's body? Having that Brit Milah shows the kedusha, the sanctity of the body. Let's address Robert Levy's question regarding autopsies. So there's a few issues regarding autopsies. First of all, with regards to the sanctity of the body, we don't want to form any disgrace onto the body, and for that reason, we have the preference. It's a discussion whether it's a prohibition or not. It may just be a preference to not examine, to not have the need to bring to post-mortem examinations, to examine the body unnecessarily. When you have to examine the body for the sake of life, then that's okay, because you've got to put the body through whatever it needs to go through, whatever examinations it needs to go through in order to keep life, in order to sustain life. But if there's no life left to the body, just putting the body through a post-mortem examination like an autopsy brings unnecessary disgrace to the body, and could include disfigurement and changing of limbs, and that's the problem, or the prohibition, or the concern about an autopsy, is that why? What for? So sometimes legally we can't stay away from it. Sometimes the police or the laws of the country dictate that you have to have a post-mortem examination. We as a Jewish community try and do whatever we can to stop the autopsy, because it's unnecessary, because the body is holy. If the body is holy, why must you go in? And why must you run examinations that are not important for the sanctity and the kedusha, for the life of the individual? The second point is, and this ties into our topic today as well, the sanctity of the body. The second point is that we're trying to get the body buried as soon as possible, as quick as possible. And that ties into the point of quick burials. Burying a body as soon as possible is part of the kedusha and the sanctity of the body. We want to give the body the appropriate attention, the appropriate treatment. And that is with burial ASAP, straight after death. While the neshama sustains the body can live. But if the neshama is no longer in the body deserves to go back to the ground, and not to wait in freezers, and not to wait in wherever it may be. Rather, the sooner the better. And that causes complications with families that are flying in from overseas for a passing of a loved one. It's what autopsy does as well. It delays the funeral. This could cause a disgrace to the corpse. Yes, the person's not alive anymore. So what disgrace is there? And the answer is because the body is part of God's creation. The body is holy, kedusha, and therefore the sooner we can bury the body, the better it is. And I know many children whose parents passed on, and they requested, please don't wait for me. It's okay, I'll miss the funeral, but I'll join the family for Shiva. Now, I'm not saying it's always the case. Sometimes it's not too difficult to wait. Sometimes the family is coming in very, very quickly and very, very soon, and therefore maybe it's an appropriate thing to wait. But sometimes the delay is a little too delayed. Sometimes the delay is a little too long. And sometimes we're not sensitive to the kedusha and the sanctity of the corpse. And rather we should say, let's bury the body. Just bury the body and make sure it gets its appropriate treatment. And I'll come in and I'll fly in for whenever I can to be part of Shiva. That would be the appropriate response. Any questions on our topic today of healthy bodies lead to healthy souls? Please feel free to post them. We've had over 40 students here between Facebook and YouTube combined. You guys have been marvelous for another day of lockdown inspiration and daily learning. Thank you very, very much for joining us. Oh, Ian Clemenson. Right. Ian's question. Ian, I think we're going to have to leave your question to tomorrow. Ian's question on YouTube is, if there is reincarnation, a soul would have more than one body. So if there's reincarnation, how can a soul come back, or will it come back with one or more bodies? Ian, we've run out of time for today. I'm going to address your question, please God, tomorrow. I love these questions. As I said, it gets me thinking. So if anyone else wants to share your questions, feel free to post them and we'll address them. We can call this Q&A with Rabbi Stern. So feel free to post as you wish or message me afterwards. Tracy Mindel, do suicides have normal burials? There used to be specific burial places for suicides. Good question as well. Right. Wow. Tracy's question. Okay, we'll come back to Ian and Tracy. Thank you for your questions. Norman Stain, you couldn't get on last night. Oh, I'm sorry to hear it. You would have loved it. So yes, we are working on a replay, Norman. We're working on a second night's show. Stay tuned for more details on that as we finalize the details with Yad La'achim, who are the host organization, and we'll follow up on that. In the meantime, have a wonderful day. Keep safe, keep sane, and keep spiritual. And we'll be back here, same place, same time. Tomorrow morning, 10:30 on Facebook and YouTube. All the best.